From the multiple improvs in Avengers: Infinity War, including a crushing goodbye, to Django Unchained's bloody moment which should have won Leo his Oscar, here are some completely unscripted movie scenes. Starting with the one that doesn't make me feel so good, Tom Holland's tearjerker farewell in Infinity War had everyone sobbing. "You'll be even more crushed when you find out," he ad-libbed it. In the original script, the Spider-Man getting blipped scene was pretty brief, but the Russo brothers decided to break the hearts of fans even more. They instructed Tom to act like he didn't want to go, and saying he understood the assignment is putting it mildly. Holland has a technique of repeating dialogue to make himself cry. He chose that moment to bust it out, making all the viewers cry with him. So Peter saying, "I don't want to go over and over again," and clinging to Iron Man was all him. Safe to say, the result is a gritty masterpiece. Similarly, the Battle of Wakanda had its spin. Remember the start when the army is chanting E-Bombay? Then T'Challa raps the chilling moment with his Wakanda Forever yell. That was all improvised. You can thank Winston Dukes M'Baku for starting the war chant, and here's a fun fact. E-Bombay isn't a made-up word. It's actually from a real South African language isiXhosa, meaning hold fast. I've gotta say, this improv made the scene so much cooler than it already was. And of course, who doesn't know by now? Dave Bautista came up with the legendary "Why is Gamora?" Wow, it seems like everyone was ad-libbing in the movie, but that's what makes it so marvelous. Pun very much intended. And just like this, our next blockbuster comedy flick had too many unscripted scenes to count, making Bridesmaids a total classic. This 2011 movie is credited with smashing the door open for female-centric comedy. And with a crazy, talented, and hilarious bunch like Kristen Wiig, Maya Rudolph, Rebel Wilson, Ellie Kemper, Rose Byrne, and Melissa McCarthy, you bet they had rib-tickling gags to add. Thankfully, director Paul Feig was all for it. So the audience got hysterical scenes like Kristen's Annie drunk on the plane. Apparently, Paul let Wiig do it 8 times to see what new things she would come up with. And guys, he says, all her iterations were comic gold. More moments like that came with Rose suddenly speaking Thai in the engagement party speech. Well, not exactly Thai initially, she just made up the words since she didn't speak the language. But Feig loved the addition so much, he made her learn a few words of it. And get this! The director added an entire scene for Melissa. It's the movie's most emotional one, where her character Megan gives a pep talk to Annie. Apparently, this speech would have originally come from a random call operator that kept calling the lead, but they correctly realized it would mean more coming from a well-established character. McCarthy got the honor, and of course, she had to bring her additions. So she concocted her character's backstory about how people used to throw firecrackers at her, but how she got the last laugh by getting the highest government security clearance. Honestly, that addition gave depth to the scene. And sometimes, even a single unscripted line can do that, like in Fast and Furious 6. The Rock came up with an insane comeback. At the movie's end, when the gang unites for their trademark family barbecue, we see Dwayne Johnson's Hobbs joining the party. Tyrese Gibson's Roman immediately makes a joke at his expense. But without missing a beat, the actor came up with a clapback saying, "You better hide that big-ass forehead." Now that had The Rock's fans wheezing with laughter. But it gets better, folks. Ludacris, standing next to Tyrese, had a genuine reaction to it, spitting out his beer in shock and cackling away. Thankfully, Gibson didn't break character either, and the cameras kept rolling, giving us what's probably the funniest scene in the movie. So, you see guys, just one line can take off like crazy, or one action move for that matter. Henry Cavill's arm reloading in Mission Impossible Fallout was that legendary moment. His addition to the MI franchise was a breath of fresh air. Fans could finally see the bewitching Henry in a wicked light, and like all iconic villains, he added personal tweaks to his own role. One of them got into a bathroom brawl with Tom Cruise. In it, the actor raised his arms in a fighting stance, and just before he threw a punch, he made a move. That's now widely known as the arm-loading pose. At first, the Man of Steel star didn't think much of it, but Tom was like, "Wow, where did that come from?" And Henry's reaction to his co-star's amazement is just so him. He immediately got shy and tried to play it off, but Ethan Hunt was having none of it. Cruise made Cavill include that in the retakes, and now the audience bows down to him for it. I won't lie. Twitter just couldn't stop obsessing over it, and it's probably one of those unforgettable Mission Impossible moments now. making many fans forever weaken their knees. The next unscripted scene on this list has a similar effect on fans, but this comes from a 2011 rom-com with a humorous story behind its making. I'm talking about that crazy stupid love moment with the Dirty Dancing lift. What if I tell you it wasn't even in the film before? Unbelievable, right? Thank God they didn't make that mistake. So you must be wondering how it made it into the film. I got you. In the original script, Ryan Gosling's Jacob was supposed to woo Emma Stone's Hannah with just a look. Unconvinced? The screenwriters were too, so they came to the leads looking for their take, and Gosling was like, "Fun story. I know how to do the Dirty Dancing lift. Apparently, the Barbie star once did that to a girl in real life." Listening to that, the writers were sold. And honestly, who wouldn't be? They let Ryan and Emma go off script for that entire scene and show off their burning chemistry. The Cruella star freaking out over her co-star's body was all her. Similarly, Gosling's charm is as real as it gets. But when it comes to the actual lift, there's more. Apparently, when he lifted her in the air, her long-buried childhood height phobia activated, and she did what the hero later hilariously described as, "if a possum fell out of a tree and tried to scratch your eyes out." Yeah, so an extra had to step in for it. But hey, it doesn't make the scene any less amazing. Crazy Stupid Love wouldn't be the same without it. It's like if you take the cup scene out of Pitch Perfect. Hold up, that was unscripted too. Man, are all the best scenes in cinema improvised? Whatever it is, I'm sure fans are glad they made it to the big screen. For this moment, we know Anna Kendrick's Becca gave a shockingly good audition, using the most unlikely instrument to sing a song, a single plastic cup. But check this out, folks. Anna later revealed she used it for her audition for the movie too. That's right, it's like the official audition anthem now. Naturally, the directors were so impressed that they worked it into the film, and there you have it, an amazing cinematic masterpiece. Also, you've got to thank Reddit for it. Kendrick saw the viral cup song while mindlessly scrolling through the app, and it stuck with her. Long story short, thanks to Pitch Perfect, it's now stuck with all of us. Man, improvs like this can completely change the movie. And they don't always have to be tame. Sometimes they come out at the peak of an intense scene, even if that means getting hurt in real life. Just ask Leonardo DiCaprio and he'll tell you how he carried on with a slashed hand in Django Unchained. Seriously, blood kept dripping from his wound, but he just kept acting. This happened during a dinner table scene, where Leo's character, Calvin, smacks his fist on the table. Unfortunately, it lands right on top of a glass that breaks right away. In a matter of seconds, the star's palm gets soaked with blood. But did he care? Nope. He just kept going, like it was part of a script. Seeing that, Quentin Tarantino kept the cameras rolling and the scene beelined to the top of DiCaprio's mind-blowing performances list. Later, he required some serious stitches, but the job was done terribly. And you know what? This wasn't his only injury on the set. A hammer used in the dinner scene also hit him in the head, and he later got a plastic hammer to work with. That just proves the actor's enthusiasm to deliver the best, no matter what. And honestly, kudos to the rest of the cast too, who went along the glass scene with a straight face, feeling horrified inside. I bet Jamie Foxx's shaken expression at the blood gushing out must remind you of how insanely good the whole scene was. And get this, Leo calls the entire encounter a fun experience. I'm not sure you and I have the same definition of fun, man. So from DiCaprio's epic performance in Django Unchained to Avengers Infinity War's infinitely gutting and comical moments, those were all the completely unscripted movie scenes.